business channel. This is Mediaweek.
Hello and thanks for joining us on Media Week. Coming up, Rags to Riches, the tale of Seven boss Kerry Stokes. We're going to be speaking to the author Andrew Raw coming up. Also, we'll be joined by SMI's Jane Schultz for a check on media agency ad spend and get her take on the forecasts as well. But first, radio and TV broadcaster Southern Cross Media issued a profit downgrade this week. First half revenues now expected to come in lower than forecast, down around 8%. Let's get the details. Our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, is here. James, just in terms of what they said, because it really did spook the market when they made this outlook statement at the AGM. What did they say?
Yeah, well, it's a market too. It's got a real watch on Southern Cross Media stock this year, you know, because of the performance in Sydney of the radio station in particular, the continuing challenging results that they're having with the 10 in regional TV markets. Look, they talked about declining metro radio ad revenues further into 2015, and there's a concern that this drop of speed of decline could pick up because there's a market lag between when you get poor ratings and the advertisers' response to it, so that could accelerate a little bit. They talked about their digital growth as a good thing, but the underlying threat there is they've lost their chief digital executive, Clive Dickens, who's been poached by Seven, so that's a position they need to fill. He doesn't leave till sometime early next year, so they've got a bit of time there, but he's been a real driver of their digital success, if you like, and something they hope will make up for some of their radio losses. They talked about local sales have been flat in our regional markets, and then also national advertising has been challenging for them. So they're getting sort of pressured from both sides of their ad sales business. They admitted, look, Today FM has not met expectations in Sydney, and those expectations were pretty low. We talked about how at the start of the year they warned the market, look, we're not going to get to number one straight away, it's going to take a little while. Be patient, but you know, they didn't even meet those lower expectations.
Just, I guess, too, obviously with the tie-up with 10 as well, so that also impacting in terms of the company. Just the outgoing chairman was making some commentary about refusing to rule out asset sales. What do you think we might see from the company to try and turn things around?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he might have been alluding to there, but he was also very aggressive about wanting to change the media ownership rules, you know, as most companies have been, you know. So asset sales, I'm not really sure. I mean, that might be alluding to some sort of merger. There's been a lot of speculation about that. Could, you know, one of the bigger, you know, somebody Seven, or could it be Nine? Would they be interested in picking up some of the radio assets? So, you know, might have been speaking about that. But then some of that stuff involves changing the media laws for it to happen.
Just on, I guess, Southern Cross Stereo launching their new station as well, and this is what, the first Australian Metro FM station for quite a while. Quite a while,
yeah. Hit 107, it was the old SAFM. I think we mentioned it last week that it was changing. Had a bit of a listen to the station this week, their new breakfast show. I think it's Amos and Danny they're called. Day one, it's not going to give you a great feel, but you know, they have to start, and they're really trying to sell the hit music aspect of it. I think they're playing probably a lot more songs than any other station is at breakfast. They think that'll be a point of difference, I guess. For me, it was a little bit sterile. You didn't get much of the personality of the announcers, which I think is very crucial in that breakfast time slot. But so we'll see how the show develops. I'm sure the announcers will sort of maybe warm to the audience a bit more, and they'll be, you know, interact better with the listeners. And be interesting to see whether they really do persevere with that, you know, that strong musical choice. I mean, the show finished just after 8:30, and they went straight into like 20 songs in a row. So they really want to push the hit music aspect of it, and hopefully that'll give them pick up some listeners from other channels who aren't happy they're getting enough music, perhaps.
All right. We might just come back to other radio news, of course, in the past week as well, but we just wanted to get the share market reaction to Southern Cross Stereo. Here's Evan Lucas from IG.
Having a look at what's going on at Southern Cross Media, they continue to really underperform, and this week we saw them downgrading expectations for the first half of FY15. Revenue is expected to fall by 7 to 8%. That's down from 5%. Expectations are for around about $331 million on the revenue line, but that sees the EBITDA line, so the earnings line, down around about 17% as they continue to see a really challenging space in the advertisement area. We know all about that. They are leaking a huge amount of company performance. They're also leaking in terms of market share, and all that's why it's dragging. Metro down 14%. They reckon regional is down 6%, and considering that they are the core market being regional, it's not a bad number there, but all in all, it's a horrible, horrible thing to see, and it's why Southern Cross Media has now lost almost 90% since the start of the year. When they were at $1.70, they now touch around about 70 cents, so very interesting place indeed. The other side of the market is actually quite interesting. 10 continues to really jump off what would look like a fairly headline poor number from their full year numbers, but since that 19.5 cent low, they've jumped up to now 23.5 cents, and there is very much street rumour that there is a tie-up deal possibly with Fairfax Media. It would be all about that online area, particularly 10 Play, Fairfax getting exposure to that. There'd also be good crossovers possibly in their media in terms of the news space. They could then go into 10 as well. So there is possible there, but it is all high-level talks. There's certainly no sort of actual official word coming out of there either. And that's probably what's driving 10. The results, as I said, were not brilliant, and seeing them jump at that high suggests that any form of merger talk, any form of sort of stability on the revenue line would certainly help them, and that's certainly what was driving the Media Week this week.
Let's just return to radio. Some other news, of course, this week. Media Week's James Manning with us. The Commercial Radio Awards, because this time last week you were there in Melbourne for the conference, then the awards on the weekend.
Yeah.
Who were the big winners?
Yeah, look, had a good day at the conference. Andrew Denton was great. Everybody thought he was probably the best keynote in the last decade or so. So had a great impact. Big winners at the awards. Jonesy and Amanda did very well. They won the Best On-Air FM team, second time in 3 years they've won that, so they've got a real hold on that. Their executive producer, Laura Viglino, she was the best show producer, and Jonesy and Amanda's My Generation program, which is a syndicated weekend show, that won for, I think, best syndication. So they really cleaned up big time. Look, other winners, Ross and John from 3AW won Best AM on-air team. I think Peter Harvey was inducted into the Hall of Fame, former Austereo boss. I think he's still on the board of Southern Cross Austereo. Ben Forder from 2GB picked up an award. Also Ray Hadley won a couple. Melissa Doyle won a newcomer award. Of course, she's been on TV for quite a while, but sort of new to the radio space, doing a Smooth FM breakfast on weekends. And Neil Mitchell won. Glenn Daniel, a Sydney newsreader, won a Brian White award. A guy called Becco from Triple M won an award. He's a daytime announcer. And Kiss FM, the Kyle and Jackie O, no awards for them, but their program director, Derek Bargwana, who moved across with them from Today FM, he won the Best PD award.
Just some other interesting news as well, and I know you've been to the Nova Red Room events before, but
yes.
Nova Entertainment's launching a live music event for Smooth FM, similar to the Nova Red.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worked so well for Nova. They thought, look, we could try this for Smooth FM. It's a different sort of music, of course, more easy listening, if you like, a little older demographic. And they're just going to call it simply An Evening With. The first act they've got's a pretty good one, Spandau Ballet. It's a great brand, a great English band from the 80s. So they're touring soon, and they'll be a good get to start off the series.
Absolutely. James, thank you for that. Let's just turn to some other news events this week. The ultimate rags to riches tale, Kerry Stokes' rise from dirt poor beginnings to billionaire businessman. And this week saw the launch of the authorised biography of the Seven Group executive chairman by journalist and Underbelly author Andrew Rule. Well, during the book launch this week, Kerry Stokes expanded on some of his dealings with his fellow Australian media moguls.
1981, and I'm in Rupert Murdoch's boardroom in Sydney, and he walks in with Ken Carley. I've been invited to lunch. This time I know where the knives and forks go. So we walk in, he sits down, prawn cocktails served. He said, fine, I want my show on Channel 7 in Canberra. In the mornings it's called the Good Morning Australia show. I said, no, I can't do that. And he said, why not? I said, well, I've made a commitment with Kerry Packer to do the day program. And he said, how much is he paying you? And I was stupid enough to tell him, and he said, I'll double that. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't do it, I've made an agreement. And he said, have you signed a contract? I said, no. He said, well, then you can do it. He said to Ken, why don't we get something drawn up? And I said, no, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't do that. So he said, you sure? And I said, yeah. He said, we're wasting our time here. So he got up and walked out with Ken. I'm still halfway through the prawn cocktail. But I did stay. I did stay, and I finished lunch, and the waiter was nice. He brought me the steak, and it was all very good, and I walked out afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, some fascinating insights there at that launch. So let's get some more. We're joined from Melbourne by the author of Kerry Stokes, The Boy from Nowhere, Andrew Rule. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. Just can you explain for everyone how this came about? You're most known to people for your journalism and as co-author of the Underbelly books. Kerry Stokes, one of Australia's most successful business people, but he's so guarded about his private life. So just explain for us how this all came about.
3 years ago, during the Cup Carnival, I was told that he was willing to tell his story, but he wanted to tell somebody that he thought could, write it well and make a lively read. And I didn't know much about Kerry Stokes, but I did know how much hard work a book was. So I said, look, I think I'll have another bet. And I'll suggest a list of people that I think you should go to, and I nominated 3 or 4 very good ones. Later on, the same person, a Channel 7 person, spoke to me and said, "Look, you should at least try and meet him and just have a chat and see what you think." And I did. I went and met him, and I spent a long night having a long talk. And halfway through the evening, I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Stokes," and I went down and got a notebook and started to take notes because he was just such a good story. I mean, he's a great yarn spinner.
Andrew, how comfortable was he with you around him when you were speaking with him? Did you spend subsequently a lot of time with him, or did he more open up the way for you to speak to people who'd known him growing up?
Both propositions are true. He very kindly furnished me with a whole list of people to talk to, including his former wives. A lot of people were former partners in business, but not all of them, necessarily friendly faces, but many of them buried their differences to talk to me. And I was grateful to have that sort of open approach, an open slather. I approached it the way that we do with all these big investigative sort of pieces. You talk to as many people as you can, you gather all the voices together, then you try and write a narrative that makes sense and includes the salient facts, and you try and leave out those things that will get you sued.
Very smart. But just in terms of Kerry Stokes, I mean, his story is extraordinary. How much do you think it's been hard work, or how much good fortune has helped him get to where he is?
I think it's wrong to say that somebody like him is lucky. He's only lucky in the sense that he hasn't had a run of bad luck, if that makes sense. I'd have to say that he's, if you walked into a 2-up school and you threw 7 heads, well, that's probably luck. But he's effectively done that in business, probably thrown 7 out of 10 heads. I don't think it's luck, though. I think he's very intuitive. I think he makes judgments about the future based on what's happened in the past. He's actually a very good student of history. And I think he's got a finely tuned sense of when markets are going to fail. He has great intuition about the end of a run, and I think he gets in first.
Andrew, you mentioned some of the other business people that you maybe got to spend a bit of time with.
Yep.
Who were some of them, and did you write much about, like, Jack Bendit, for example? Is there much about him in the book?
Well, look, I went to see Jack Bendit and his wife Eleanor. They received me warmly. They spoke to me, Jack spoke to me at length. Mrs. Bendit didn't. I went and saw Kevin Merrifield, Kerry Stokes' sort of first real partner in business. And I saw as many people as I could like that. They're all in the book. I think essentially Kerry Stokes is a lone hand, sort of a lone wolf businessman, and yet the flip side of that is he's also combined with other partnerships very well. He's a gregarious man, he's a likeable man, he's an entertaining man, and yet deep down I think he's a loner.
Some self-made people who've, built a successful empire seem to be quite concerned about losing it all. Is that something that maybe motivates Kerry Stokes?
I suspect that's true. I think if you've been very poor as a child and as a young person, it probably affects the way you think. Now, that probably affects different people in different ways. Some maybe just, waste money, and I think some tend to never let it slip through their fingers. I think he's played it, he takes calculated risks, but I think he's probably always got that, the sort of safety catch. When he when he first went to Perth from Melbourne, he had under his shirt a money belt, and in the money belt he had, you know, like a wad of money, like £150, and that was going to get him through that first year or so to establish himself. I think he retains that sense of prudence.
Just on Kerry Stokes and the future, I saw him quoted as saying that just because the authorised biography is out now doesn't signal that he's retiring anytime soon yet. Did you get any hints from him, though, about succession planning at all?
He is, I understand, a very good poker player, and I would believe that because I believe he would only tell you what he wanted to tell you, and I'm certainly not smart enough to play poker or second guess someone like him, and I just listen and try and weave it into a story. He didn't really give me those hints. I think he thinks he's got a lot more moves left in him. He's fascinated by what he does. He's fascinated by business, the cut and thrust, the challenges, and I think for him that is his life. He doesn't want to play golf or, you know, go fishing.
Andrew, we'll really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
It's a very good book, and I urge your viewers to buy it because, as my great mentor Les Carline said, you've invented a new genre, a readable biography.
Andrew, thank you again. Andrew Rule there, author of The Boy from Nowhere, on Kerry Stokes. Coming up on Media Week, SMI's Jane Schultz joins us for more on the expansion of the Ad Revenue Measurement Company.